and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the Beginner's Agility Training series. In this episode, we're looking at the foundations for jump skills. Now, jump skills will be your key to good agility. I can't say enough how we should really make sure the foundations of jumping is in there. It's such an important part of agility and it gets neglected. People think, oh, my dog can jump over that. Fine, but there's so much there, and it doesn't hurt to pay a lot of attention to your jump skills. In fact, I spend most of my time looking at my jump skills. Jumps, when you go on a course, whether you're doing a jumping course, which will be primarily jumps, or whether you're doing agility course, the jumps are always the interconnecting factor. If your dog isn't confident jumping, hasn't got value for jumps, then you can have all the nice jazzy bits of doing running contacts and weaves and so forth, but you'll be missing that vital component. So I would say when you're training, we always start with jumps. Now, I just want to mention something because I think it's really good. I started Magpie's agility training with hoops. Now, this is a hoop. It's part of the sport called hoopers, and it's basically the half of a hula hoop in plastic uprights. It's simple as that. It's really easy to make. There's stuff online to make. We're going to be having a Hooper series on here as well, and you can check out the Pup to Pro where you'll see I did loads of stuff with hoops. Now you're saying a hoop isn't anything like a jump, but it is. It's got two uprights that the dog has to go through, and we can use it to teach things like shallow turns, driving on. I started with a hoop before I felt that Magpie was old enough to do a jump, and it produced a lot of great results with Magpie, gave her a lot of confidence in those early stages without putting any pressure on her. So if you're thinking of going, and if you have got a puppy, I would suggest, or any dog really, I suggest looking at hoops, because I think hoopers is a really good complement to agility. I use it with all my dogs now to help build distance and stuff. Okay, enough about hoops. You don't have to have a hoop to do this. It's just, it might be something you like to look into. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Okay, so we have here our jump. Now, I would say with any dog, it's worthwhile starting with what we know as a puppy bump. Basically, it's guttering that we've cut down to length. Now, if you're doing this with a puppy, at about 6 months, you can start running through your wings with a puppy bump. But I would not go any further with jumps until they're at least 8-9 months. Possibly older. There is absolutely no rush. I'd rather you were cautious and said I'm going to wait a bit longer than try to rush these things. So I will start doing stuff with a puppy bump, but I won't go too far with it. But this is a nice way to start jumping. If you haven't got a puppy bump and your dog is over a year old, then you could have a pole like this. Now the only problem with this is a tendency to roll, because it's not fixed in place. So it's very nice and low for the dog, but they can clip it and roll and that. So that's why I prefer using the puppy bump, because it's not going to roll and slip under a dog's foot. We don't want this going all over the place. But you can certainly do that. I don't tend to do things where I just have two wings. So sometimes you'll see people, they teach dogs to run through wings. I don't do that, because you are just teaching them to run through a wing. And running through wings is a different concept to jumping over a jump. So while you might be getting the distance and so forth, what you're teaching the dog is when you see a jump like this, you power through it as fast as you can. Yes, we want that ultimately, but when a dog is learning, putting on that power through a pair of wings means that there's a real risk that they will knock poles because they'll just clatter them. They won't be used to the fact that I have to also think about jumping over something. So if you haven't got a puppy bump, that's when the hoop comes in useful, because you can do all this stuff on a hoop and it doesn't matter they run through them, because you always run through on a hoop. But a hoop looks different to a jump, so the dog is able to understand hoops I run through, jumps I do not. So I recommend having this, and I say, you go to the DIY shop and you get a piece of guttering and sorted. So we've got our little setup here. I've got two wings and I've got my puppy bump here. So how do I want to start teaching my dog to jump? Well, what I want to do is I want my dog to choose to do a jump. I want that to be its primary option. I want to power over a jump. And I also want it to have great value for jumps, because what you see a lot is dogs don't have value for jumps, so they miss them. So I'm going to start by shaping, and I do a lot of shaping now in my agility. Teaching the behaviour by shaping tends to make the behaviour stronger in the dog's mind. It's a bit the difference between showing and getting them to figure it out themselves. So I can show my dog to jump through this jump by putting a toy there, holding my dog and sending it through. My dog has learnt to run to a toy. Has it really learnt that it has to do it by jumping through a pair of wings? Not really. The difference is with shaping is that you teach your dog that this is what you do, this is what you have to do to achieve an end goal. It also helps the dog to be more confident with failure. A lot of dogs really struggle with failure. What I mean by failure is they get it wrong, you go, oops, never mind, let's try again. Even in light-hearted like that, some dogs will shut down and go, I can't do it. If they fail too many times, they can't cope. So then you end up in this cycle where you go backwards to try and help them, but then you can never move forwards. Shaping builds that confidence. So I'm going to show you what you just want to do with this jump. And it is really easy, and if you've never done shaping before, this is a great exercise to get you started. My dogs obviously know what a jump is, so you're not going to get this as if they'd never seen a jump. But I want you to imagine that it's a dog that's never been there, never seen one, and this is what we're going to do, and you will see the similar results. So what I want, I've got my dogs near the jump. I'm going to stand roughly here, so, and you can see already she did what I wanted her to do. She went there. Now the reason I'm here is because I'm sort of halfway between, so the dog can go either side to look at me. If I'm here, they've got to work away from me. It's better if I'm here. Now if you wanted to, you could even stand this side if the dog is there. See if they'll just come through to you. So all we're doing is we want the dog to pick to come through the jump, and we're not asking them to jump, obviously they're on a puppy bump. We just want them to walk through. So we're going to see what they do. Swift, you did it once. So this is sort of like shaping. It can be, we might need to move it on a little bit. We might need to encourage them a little bit. Not by luring them, but, oh yeah, excellent, get it. I think she was just waiting for Swift to get out of the way. But what we might have done is, like for instance, if the dog was really worried, we might have just made sure, we might have just brought them up to the jump and rewarded them there and encourage them. Oh, see, someone's got the idea. So all we're doing is having the dog choose to go over the jump. And when they do it, I'm going to throw the treat a little bit ahead of them, like that. Good girl. And then we start going, oops, that was Swift got a whole one. So we're going to start to get this value built in for just doing a jump. It's simple. Excellent, go get it. Now I'm throwing this away from them because I don't want, eventually obviously we want them to be driving on. Good. Good girl, Swift. When we're doing anything, we always make sure we work both sides. So I've stood here and worked this side. I'm going to go this side. We don't want to have a favourite side. It's all too easy to have a favourite side. Good girl, Swift. Go get that. No, Swift, it's over there. I have got two dogs doing this at once, which isn't very helpful. And of course, poor Merlin has joined in. The reason Merlin isn't getting anything is because these treats are not suitable for him. He has pancreatitis as well to add to the collection, and these are not low enough fat treats for him. So, good girl. So you can see, once you get going on this, it's very straightforward. The dog gets it. It's so easy. I just run back and forth and I get a treat. I mean, how easy and fun is that? Yeah. Okay. And I'm making sure I throw it away so the dog has got to come and move in and go again. Good girl. This stage I'm giving no cue. Doesn't need a cue. I'm not cueing this behaviour. I'm just getting up value for this jump. So once we've started that, we can start adding a little bit of complexity. So we started here. What I might do is move myself so I'm now this side. Now she's got to choose to go both ways, but I'm in the wrong side, if you like. Good girl. So I'm no longer here, my body is sort of helping both sides. Here, she's got that, oh, I've got to drive away from her, which is very good when you start to distance handle, because obviously we're going to need you to drive away from me. Good girl, go get it. Okay, so we just do the other side now. And again, what we're doing is, good girl, building up that distance. Search for it, it's there somewhere. Good girl. And just getting them to drive through. Look at her going, she's driving straight on. Good girl. No worries. So that is your basic foundational exercise with a jump. You can do, as I said, you can do this with, I would do this with a hoop with a baby puppy, little puppy. Once they get to 6 months, then I would have a jump bump and I would do this with a jump, but I wouldn't do it too often. Maybe once a week, because you don't need to do it too often. But that's your foundation skill for this jump. And we're just teaching that value for an obstacle. The value is there that I want to go through that jump because it's going to earn me a reward. So that's how we do it, and that's how we shape your jump, your foundations, and we'll be moving it along in the next episodes. Hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video. If you have, you might subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can click the bell icon to get notifications of when new videos are coming out. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon.